All right. Good morning, everyone. So today I'm planning to do a session on ISO 27000. So this will give you a kind of a good overview of the standard and the processes involved. So I'll be using this standard toolkit provided by ISO 27001 security. So I have to give full credit to this community website. So find all these things which I'm explaining here in this website. So and this is even getting frequently updated. So it's a quite resourceful website. So you can see a few things here. You can find different elements of this ISO 27000 standard, and also it provides a forum which is really interesting, and also it provides a toolkit and also a FAQ list, and all the new additions of the standard will come into the website, so which is quite interesting. And yeah, so this is about the forum. So there are a lot of posts happening, so discussions, which is quite useful for anyone who is learning about ISO 27000 or related standards. So first of all, uh, we'll try to understand the whole the phenomenon of standards. So for for a lot of people, when you say standards, it's quite new concept because we don't hear about much about standards when we are learning. But of course, when we are working in the industry, right, wherever, right, so standards are quite useful. So the first important thing to understand is what is a standard, right? So what is this concept of a standard? So in short, a standard is basically a best practice, right? So there are different best practice, okay, best practice. So there are different organizations where they have different type of business processes, and they have different types of activities that they do. And over the years, when an organization, right, they do this processes, right, so with time they try to perfect it, right? They will know how to perfect it. So once they perfect it, right, they'll understand by reusing this process again, right? If you reuse this process again, you can get the best results. So similarly, they identify this sort of pattern then. So they have some patterns like anti patterns which they use it, they will always get some failure results. So this is the success. Similarly, there are cases of failures. So it's quite important to understand that reinventing the wheel takes time. So we have to always reuse what we have used earlier, whether it's a process to uh, put forward a service or even a product. Whatever the case, we can always reuse it. So we know that when you reuse it, you will always get the success. And there are some anti-patterns. When you reuse it, you always get the failure. So when you know that you're using that process, you have to stop it. So because you will end up in a failure. So this is something useful to know, right? So and good example for this best practice would be Toyota Way. So there's this company called Toyota in Japan, which is a very large company, a billion-dollar company. They have been manufacturing cars for a long number of years. I think other than cars, they have other things also. So especially automobiles, vehicles, right? They've been doing it for a long time, and they have perfected a process. So that's called the Toyota Way, or Toyota manufacturing process. And then everybody in the world, right, when this was published, like books or like articles or things like that, people realize if you use that process, you also can get the success, right? So then it becomes with the common belief, right? It's a consensus, right? Consensus. Um, it automatically becomes a standard. So now Toyota Way or the Toyota manufacturing process is a standard all around. So, but try to understand this doesn't happen often. So standard doesn't come from private organizations. So normally, like standard creation process is a completely different process, right? Uh, so there will be a lot of right. So there are a lot of intervention needed, right? So big organizations, so even say Google, Microsoft, even they try to come up with a standard, sometimes fails. So I can remember the time where Microsoft tried to push forward the standard, it didn't work out. Uh, so we need some sort of a technique basically to set up a standard. So that's where organizations like ISO comes in. ISO organization and things like this comes in because they have a process. So they are kind of recognized all over the world that they do standards right. So then people believe it. So we don't have that sense of believing in standards, then the standards does not work. So this is how basically a standard is created. All right. So next we'll discuss what are different types of standards, right? What are the different types of standards? So I'll take a new whiteboard. Okay. Um, okay. So when you talk about standards, there are different types. So as an example, there can be process standards, right? Process standards, process, and also product, right? So there are different types of standards. So process standards, like most of the ISO standards, they are process standards. So we have ISO 9001, which is about quality, right? And we have ISO 31000, which is about risk, right? And then ISO 27001, which is about security. Right? So this is about information security. Similarly, there are other standards. So there are product standards. There are plenty of them available. Now, in Sri Lanka, we have SLS standards from Sri Lanka Standard Institute, SLS side. So these are mostly product standards. So it measures the quality of a product, right? Quality of a product. So, but this is of course a product, quality of a product. And this one is basically a process. So how do you secure organization? That's basically what ISO 27000 talks about. How do you look at enterprise risk management? So that's done by 31000. So likewise, uh, it goes through this processes and products. And similarly, there are now there's another categorization. Right? So standards can be categorized for ISO standards, right, and also non-ISO. So ISO standards are basically the standards created from the ISO organization, right? So ISO organization, if you go to the site, they have a lot of standards. We can do a quick uh, go through of these standards, right? So we'll have a look at it. So this is the ISO site, right? Yeah, so like see, like now the top thing that they discuss is business continuity management, right? So business continuity management. So they say never too late to get ready. So actually we are too late for our organizations, countries, regions, even the world is not really ready for a disaster like this. We realized it, no? So some of the countries are better, some of the countries are really worse situation, at worse situation. Italy, I think, you know, so I don't know, it's hard to comment on things because we really didn't know what really happened. But we know for sure this idea of business continuity and disaster recovery was not present, right? So it's hard to understand because if you look at the European region from the historical perspective, they've been having all these disasters all the time. But maybe like this is not man-made in a way, like it's like not wars or any other thing. So maybe they are not ready for that sort of thing. So maybe uh, some new perspective for them. So see, like they're talking a lot about this standards now. So this is the right time to talk about standards, right? So because we have to continue our businesses. So disaster is still going on. So it takes two-step process, right? So basically it's disaster now. It's disaster. So we have to recover from the disaster, and then we have to continue our business, right? So we have to continue the business. Okay, so that's where business continuity come in, right? So these two should ideally kick in at the same time, right? So should in the same time. So you don't say like only after disaster this should kick in. No, yeah, I think it should kick in at the same time. So they should start running parallelly. All right. So there's a lot of standards on business continuity as well. So here, this ISO, so we'll do the standard again. So we'll discuss about this business continuity management system 22301. Uh, and yeah, so there's a technical committee. So this is a technical committee who talks about business continuity. And yeah, so ISO members identify role for standards during it. So everybody's talking about standards now, because if you have standards for these things, you don't have to create anything on the time of disaster. So we know exactly what will be the procedure. So what to follow. So everyone knows exactly what to do. But at this particular moment, some of the things we are creating right now, right? So yeah, so these are the filtered standards. Yeah. So there's plenty involved. Uh, this is for company organization management, including groupers. Yeah, so that's sort of a standard grouping. So you have several standards here, right? So that's risk. So risk is also another important aspect, right? So managing travel risks. So see, everything is there. Some of those things are already there. So, but only thing is how people adopt these standards is a different question. How good they're in adapting, right? So I don't think even in Sri Lanka, like we have any organization who adopts 31,000, but they have these enterprise risk management options. But still, especially the government organizations, they are not looked into those things. So this risk divisions, risk management should look into the health, safety. So there are this standard like 14,001, all there, right? So maybe there's a need for new standard, but yeah. So this is the technical committee. So you can find the people who are involved with the scope and what they are working on. So quite interesting. So we'll have another look at what they're doing, right? Right. So then we go back to our home page. So they have standards in sustainable development and other things, right? And also this is not the time probably certify, but ISO organization, they do certification as well. So that's another part of their work activity, right? Mm, yeah. So they talk about yeah, certificate and everything. So this is basically the top standards that they always push. One is the quality management. So probably all you have heard about this quality management and also environmental management. Sorry, I think I misspelled the previous one. It's not 14,000, 18,000 for health safety and 27,000 for information security management. So these are like the top standards, and also there are other standards like uh, 31,000 for risk. So if you go here, you can find out many different standards. See, like it's completely a different world out there. So there are so many standards: health and safety standards, quality management standards, and food safety, and similarly IT security. And even for things like country codes, they have a standard. So you can understand how serious this is. Like the standards business is very serious. Mm, yes. So if you go through some of them, so this is the 9,000 family. So you say family because there are several standards in ISO 9000. So several of them are there. So you can find basic details of ISO 9000. And so you can see ISO 9000 2015, that standard is the fundamentals and workability. If you download this, so you have to buy these things. So normally you can't download it, but you can find the old copy in the web, like a draft copy, uh, pre-draft version. So those things can be accessed. All right, and mm, so this is documentary, the fundamental vocabulary, and this is the quality management system, right? And also 2018, that's another one. So basically, it's a quality of an organization and guidance to achieve sustained success. All right. So there are a soup of standards. So and also 9001 has different sub specifications, like the 13485. 485 is for medical devices. This one is for quality management system, specifically for electoral and local government. So likewise you have your sub specifications. Alright, so that's about 9001, and 14000 is for environmental management. So here's a quick video we can watch.
ISO's environmental standards are tools for translating passion into effective action. When it comes to the environment, confidence has a nickname. It's recognized worldwide. How do you know it? It's ISO.
Alright, so one thing to understand is it's not simple to come up with a standard. Sometimes to come up with these standards, it might take years, because you have to collate all the existing knowledge and filter out what are the best things, and you have to find out the process, how to use it, and you will find these concepts of risk and all these things involved also, so to use them as well, right? So there's a lot of things involved, right? So it's not that direct to do this. And also finally, like, you have to push forward these things and you have to test it at somewhere, and you have to verify it. So it's just a long process, right? It's just a long process. So what ISO is doing is quite fascinating, right? So this is another one video, small clip. We look at it. So there's 14,000.
ISO 14001, ISO's well-known standard for environmental management systems, was first launched in 1996. With the publication of the 2016 edition, we asked Acting ISO Secretary General Kevin McKinley why this standard has been revised.
So the environmental context now is challenging. We see a lot of difficult discussions on climate change. We see a lot of challenges for organizations to meet expectations of policymakers related to water utilization, related to energy usage. These are big challenges that are reflected as well in the views of their stakeholders, of shareholders. The expectation that organizations will steward the environment and perform according to what they believe is appropriate in a modern organization. So these types of changes that were very much taken into consideration by the committee that developed the new 14001.
So Kevin, why is this standard so important?
It's a tool. It's a tool that's
So it's an important question, right? So why standards are important? So actually, in a way, if you really try to understand it, I will see like what he's trying to say, especially in 14,001. But one thing to understand, basically, standards rules the world, right? So say think about, you remove standards from the world, suddenly you will end up getting into a lot of problems, right? So it's basically standards runs the world in general. So that's like my answer.
towards advancement and supports continual improvement. The standard itself has gained recognition through use in organizations as a self-improvement tool. It's also gained prominence through third-party recognition, through certification, where we have now more than 300,000 certificates for 14001 globally, a sign of its impact and a sign of its uptake in many, many countries.
Now, for users of this standard, what are the main benefits?
The
leadership and the demands of leadership and organisation to get involved in issues. Protecting the environment, which has increased to look at resource use and also to look at what demands may be put on the environment by the organisation. The environmental performance, which was one of those things in the previous version of the standard that said it's not strong enough, it's simply stronger now. The issue of life cycle perspective, so we need to think about the perspective of a life cycle when we start looking at environment aspects. The issue of enhancing communication, thinking about how to communicate better with your stakeholders. And lastly, but not least importantly, moving us from a world where we think everything was a paper to something that can be stored in the cloud, and hence it's going to change the further documentation.
And what are you hoping for the future of ISO 42001?
What do I want to do in the next? After being decided with the children's choice to help them manage environmental issues in their strategic thinking action plans.
From September 2015, there will be a 3-year transition period for certified organizations.
So this is some common thing. It's like standards also changes, like the time they changes its structure. So you have, like, when you get a standard into an organization, you have to sometimes kind of update it to a newer standard. So remember, like, these are not like one time set thing. So the basics of standards will be same, but they might change the way how they handle disclosures and the controls that come in. So all these things can change. Now at the time of Corona, this is probably something quite new. So even though you have a health standard, that should get modified at one point. So the, the, the way how it really works is different from most of the viruses. So that's where I had to be careful. Okay, so that's basically ISO 14000. So this is 27000, which the standard we are going to start with, which is quite interesting standard, quite a lengthy standard. So it has to the 2018 version and 13 versions as well, right? So this is quite important for organizations. So it provides a very clear-cut advantage for any organization who uses it. So I have seen the value of it over the years. So organization can get really a real advantage, right? So the first question that anybody can ask is, so if I use a standard like this, does it ensure my security? And the answer is no. But if you don't use it, you don't have any help. But if you keep using it for some time continuously, and you will get some sort of security, or the benchmarks, sorry, the foundations of the security, right? Right. So this is basically like the standard documentations. We have to buy it again. So if we don't have the money to buy it, so the option would be always to get a reference copy, or this what you call as draft copy from the internet. So that's something that you guys have to do, right? But the knowledge of this standard, extracted knowledge, can be found in the ISO 27001 security website. So that's why they give a great help towards learning this whole thing, right? Even again, purely looking at the standard documentation, it might take a while if you don't have experience to demystify it. So yeah, so that's basically what you have to understand. All right. So so these are some of the standards which are available, public available standards. So you'll find some standards here. So we just search for ISO 27000. We search for 27000. Yeah, you can't find it. Okay, you have it here. So we'll take this one, download. You are about to download document protected by copyright. Must accept ISO license agreement. I'm not really sure whether I can show this. I have not done this before. So I should not violate any copyrights. Copyright. You are acknowledging and agree to respect ISO's copyright in a publishing, purchasing, downloading, publishing. Okay. License. The company name, your name. Okay. Order. You may download copies, 11 copies. You purchase personal devices. Desktop. This one sharing, posting, I was working on the internet is not coming on. Okay, so basically, I don't think it's a good idea to open this document. So you can download it. So I think that's the right way to look at it. So please accept this, and I'll post this link. So that's the right thing to do. So then we'll discuss this in a different way, where we'll look at the extract of it and then we'll discuss. So otherwise, I think it's not good to open the document and discuss. So we'll get a draft document and we'll look at it. All right. So then 14,000 is for occupational health safety. This is something that should be very interesting these days. It should cover the fundamentals. All right. So we talked about 9,000. So, and 22,000 is also quite interesting, food safety management. Again, we'll have a quick look at the video. 1 minute video.
When you're having something to eat or drink, do you ever wonder about the long road from farm or factory to your kitchen? Millions of people fall ill and even die after eating unsafe food. So to ensure the safety of food along global supply chains,
So what you're seeing is actually two standards that they're using, what they're pointing out. ISO 11784.
standards benefit producers and manufacturers, regulators.
Alright, so basically got the idea. So I will stop this part 1 and we'll see from part 2.